If you keep stretching and nothing's changing, this could be why.
We probably all know that feeling of tightness in a muscle that just won't go away with stretching. We might get temporary relief, but more often than not, when that has worn off, we're back to feeling tight again. So what is it that causes us to feel that way? And why can't we create lasting change? If we recall from this video over here, our joints move on a spectrum. We can move from one end over here to that end over there. These joints, however, are surrounded by muscle tissue. These tissues will, depending on the range that I move into, either lengthen or shorten, eccentrically load or concentrically contract. A very simple example, if I straighten my elbow, my bicep will lengthen, and if I bend my elbow, my bicep will shorten. The top of my hamstring, which attaches to my pelvis, will lengthen as I anterior tilt my pelvis, and it will shorten as I posterior tilt the pelvis. So what I am looking at here are the attachment points of my muscles and how movement in the relevant joint influences these attachment points. If I have a rubber band and I take my attachment points away from each other, I am lengthening this band. But have a look at this band. What have I done to it? I have brought tension into this band. The band is floppy over here and it is taut over here. Let's take this into another context. If you've ever been to a circus, or maybe you do slacklining or you have seen someone who does, then you will know that in order to walk on that rope, you need tension in it. How do you create that tension? By pulling on either side of it. Have you ever wondered why it's called a tight rope? If my t-shirt or my pants are too tight or too small for me, then I'm going to say, oh, this is too tight. But what do I actually mean? Well, I mean that the fibers of my clothing are stretched out as a result of me being too big or the fact that I've chosen a size that is too small for me. Here again, we have used the word tight to describe something that is stretched out.
So why is it that when it comes to muscle, we think we should pull on it more?
When we have a muscle that feels tight, could it be that just like that tightrope or the t-shirt, it is already stretched? What we have to recognize, however, is that the state of this muscle is an outcome of my joint position on my spectrum. As I move over here, my muscle lengthens. As I move over there, that same muscle shortens. So as I take these points away from each other, the muscle fibers within this muscle are actually trying to keep it all together. The fibers in this muscle would now be asked to control this movement or the position so that I don't go even further where my skeleton could collapse or my muscle could tear. This means that the fibers in the muscle go through an effort that is directed inwards in response to the outwards pulled position. So do we want to pull on it more if it is already uncomfortable? If it is already fatigued from all this effort? Maybe not. Here are a few common examples. Do you have tight calves, for example? Do you have tight hamstrings? Do you have tight hip flexors? Or a neck that is tight on one side? For the calves, if you're leaning forward, that's no surprise, as the calves in the back of your body are holding onto that weight shifting forwards. Tight hamstrings, the position of your pelvis will influence that. The hamstrings attach to the bottom of the pelvis, which means that if I am generally stuck in an anterior tilt, I will lengthen those hamstrings all the time. So if I'm already in that anterior tilt, then I have nowhere else to go from there when I actually try to lengthen them, for example, in a toe touch. Tight hip flexors or groins. What if it's because the pelvis is being pushed forwards underneath you? So you're leaning into those tissues and they are now simply asked to deal with that demand. A tight neck on one side, could it be that it just tilted one way and that side is constantly being elongated? What we need to do is restore our ability to move our joints according to their potential. We need to understand where we are in space and how that either lengthens or shortens that muscle that we keep complaining about. By shining a light on the missing parts of our joint's potential, you will give your muscle the chance to relax and to chill out. So what to do with it? As I said, restore your potential of movement. If it is tight, think about the tightrope. Ask yourself if stretching takes things in the right direction or even deeper into your existing patterns, leading you nowhere. Find out where you are and explore. Explore it via movement. Restore your potential, as that is what influences that muscle. From here, we need to work in those positions. Let's create movement experiences that create the sense of control, safety, and ultimately trust. Because ultimately, the thing that is really putting on the brakes for you is your nervous system. Bring that onto your side and you will gain freedom in your movement.